Thanks, Jane. We are back after the long weekend. Welcome to Tuesday's Look North. Coming up on the show tonight, firefighters and farmers are still continuing to battle that North Yorkshire moor fire, which has now been burning for more than a fortnight. We shall have the very latest with our reporter Ollie Constable live at the scene. Also coming up tonight, the improvised weapons targeting animals. A dairy farmer reveals the shocking attacks on her livestock. We shall meet the mountain climbers raising money to support children with amputations. And the new musical celebrating the music of famous Leeds indie rockers, The Wedding Present.
And the weather looks set to turn much more unsettled in the coming days. There's some rain on its way and it's going to turn cooler too. Join me for that detailed forecast.
Hello there, thanks for choosing Look North. We shall be back with Paul very shortly, much earlier than normal, because he's got some shocking new statistics about the weather. But meanwhile, the fire that broke out on moorland near Fylingdales in North Yorkshire over a fortnight ago is still causing disruption really across the area. A fertiliser mine near Whitby is operating a skeleton staff due to safety concerns. Campsites have had to shut and roads have been closed just because of the sheer amount of smoke blowing around. Other businesses say their staff have struggled to get to work. Of course, the disruption comes right at the height of the tourist season. Ollie Constable is near the village of Goathland for us this evening. Ollie, I saw some of the pictures earlier. Quite a lot of smoke still billowing around there.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. There's lots of smoke that's been billowing from this fire for almost 2 weeks now. Just behind me, you can probably see what looks like clouds. That's actually smoke from that wildfire, which is burning near RAF Fylingdales, just off the A171 above Whitby. And it's having a huge impact on lots of people here. Like you mentioned, we've heard about those people who've had to be evacuated out of campsites, as well as some people who live in the area who've been told they have to move as well because of how dangerous this fire potentially is getting as it continues to spread. We've been chatting to some people who have been affected by it most.
It's been a community effort to try and hold back this fire.
It's going to be interesting.
Farmers have been bringing tanker after tanker of water up to the burning edge. But overnight, there's been another flare-up. The fire has spread on Fylingdales Moor and is now pushing plumes of thick smoke towards coastal towns like Whitby. It's causing all sorts of problems, with nearby caravan parks being evacuated just in case. And places such as Robin Hood's Bay are now being impacted.
This morning, some of our housekeeping staff couldn't make it. We've had to send a couple of members of staff who live a little bit further afield over at Scarborough Way. They've already gone home.
I know my sister-in-law's got a farm up near Woodsmiths and she's been evacuated along with the mine. She's on a farm. She got evacuated at 4 o'clock this morning.
A short drive away near Goathland, and holidaymakers are ready to move in case the wind changes direction again.
People have seen the smoke and one thing and another, and just sort of informing them what's going on and sort of saying, look, it's not close to us, but they've already been evacuated, you know, asking people to be prepared to evacuate campsites down near the coast in the direction that the wind's blowing the smoke. The farmers, my dad for one, our main tractor and slurry tankers out there carting water. Our local gamekeepers are out there with their tractors and their toppers and leaf blowers and their firefighting equipment.
This video is from gamekeepers on the moor, back burning heather to try and stop the flames from spreading. Roads near here are closed because of how bad the smoke's been, with police asking people not to drive past the signs. This was the scene on Saturday as crews and contractors dug out fire breaks near to RAF Fylingdales to try and contain the blaze. One firefighter here said it was the worst he'd seen in 31 years with the fire service.
We do have an issue with the fire when it's burning into the peat. When it's on the surface, it can jump and go over into the heather and the moorland across the top of the road. But actually, due to the deep-seated burns, and if we've got the peat underneath the tracks that we've got in place, it can actually burn underneath the tracks and come out the other side as well.
How quickly this fire has spread in just 24 hours shows how hard it's been to fight. Crews have been here constantly as they race to try and get ahead of it. Ollie Constable, BBC Look North, on the moors above Whitby.
And you might be able to see just how strong the wind is standing here just above Goathlands, and that's part of the problem that's been helping to push that fire much further towards the coast. Just over my shoulder you might be able to see some of the dark smoke which is pushing up. That again is that fire after that reignition this morning. Lots of roads in the area are closed because of the amount of smoke being pushed across the A171. People being asked, do not move the signs. North Yorkshire Council said people have been moving the signs and driving through the road closures. They say you need to observe them. Do not drive on them because it could be hampering emergency efforts. Tom, it's expected that the fire service are going to be here for about 4 more weeks.
Thank you very much, Ollie. Stay safe out there for us tonight. Ollie Constable live at Goathland. Thank you. Paul's with us now. I mean, tinder dry conditions, strong winds. That's presumably why this is just going on and on.
Well, definitely. It's one of the impacts of what's been a severe drought. Let's not forget that this started back in February, really, and some parts of our region have not had any measurable rain so far in August. We've heard from the Met Office today that summer is now the warmest on record.
Which itself is extraordinary, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's a record broken.
Off the back of spring, which was the warmest on record. So it's hardly surprising. In fact, what is surprising is that we haven't had more wildfires across Yorkshire. I mean, there's already been a record set across England and Wales, something like 850 wildfires already this year, which is a record that was only set back in 2022. So on one hand, we're quite lucky that this hasn't been more widespread, but certainly for the North York moors, this fire is going to go on and on.
I guess we're quite lucky. This is not a built-up area. Let's not pretend. However, the damage to the wildlife and the environment here is phenomenal, isn't it?
Well, it's always huge as well. Let's not forget, in years gone by, peat has been used as a fuel. And, you know, peat is broken down organic matter that's built up over thousands of years. So on the one hand, you've got the damage to the local ecosystem, which can be catastrophic. But on a wider picture, and we're seeing this across Europe as well, year upon year of droughts. We had one in 2022. We're just in the middle of another one now. And it's what we call a positive feedback, because the peat burns, it releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere because peat is carbon, and that carbon dioxide adds to a changing climate. So it's what we call a positive feedback. As I say, we've seen it across the UK, but right across Europe and in other parts of the world. And this is, you know, one of the things that we're going to have to get used to with climate change.
You're going to be back at the end of the programme, very briefly, without any spoilers to the forecast. Rain coming?
There is some rain in the forecast, latter stages of August into early September, but not what we need is 24 hours of persistent heavy rain, and there's certainly no sign of that going forward.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you in a bit. Thank you. Now, coming up next on the programme tonight, a story you might find shocking. A farmer in Rotherham says she is determined not to be forced out of the industry, despite being the victim of rural crime on multiple occasions. Brex Lane Dairy Farm has been in Helen Smith's family since 1972, but in the last 15 years has seen an arson attack, cows being shot, and she's found hundreds of homemade traps just left in her fields. She is now calling on South Yorkshire Police and Rotherham Council to provide more support. With this story, Simon Thake.
This is one that we found in the field with the cows.
Look at this, homemade traps with 6-inch nails. 250 like this were hidden in the fields last year.
This is our Daisy here, but unfortunately she's had the bad episode of having this in her foot.
Today, Helen is showing Kate Watts from the Farmers Community Network just a selection of traps she's discovered on her farm.
These are some of what the last ones we found were like.
However shocking these weapons seem, there's more, much more.
We've had people come in and cut in the boundary fence, what belongs to the council. They come across with the quads and the motorbikes across the land. They shoot at the conservatory. We've had cows shot and left overnight dead so that we find them the next morning. It's disgusting the way that we treat and carried off. And it's all because we live on the urban fringe, because we live so close to Rotherham. But yet it's lovely where we live if people would leave us alone.
Helen has reported all the incidents to the police, but she says more needs to be done.
I've started writing her in a book now because there's that many. I keep writing them on bits of paper and then write them up. Normally my phone's full of incident numbers because I ring the police and they give, all I get is a crime number. They'll say they'll allocate an officer later on. They'll come or they'll ring me and they'll just say that because there's no CCTV or cameras, there's nothing we can do. So I just keep logging them and sometimes you can wallpaper house with them, there's that many.
South Yorkshire Police say rural crime is a priority for the force and they're investing in training and specialist resources in response.
So Helen, how's things going?
Well, it's not been too bad, but...
Help and support has been offered to Helen from the charity The Farming Community Network. Fellow farmers providing advice, compassion and a sympathetic ear.
Farmers will get up for their animals, they will get up for their crops, and we find that they put their animals and the crops before them every time. Carrying on is so important, but it's also important to talk, and that's what Helen did. She reached out to us at the FCN.
As a dairy farmer under increasing financial pressure, Helen is determined to carry on. Her motivation to keep going is clear. Her animals. Simon Thake, BBC Look North, Rotherham.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon. You are watching Tuesday night's Look North. Still ahead on tonight's programme, we are just days away from the first shows. Bradford Live is finally gearing up for its long-awaited opening night. We're going to take a look at the day's other headlines now. An inquest has heard that a 13-year-old girl found unresponsive at a flat in Huddersfield had suffered 4 cardiac arrests before she passed away. Emergency crews tried to resuscitate Casey Louise Horrocks in the early hours of the 12th of August. The inquest at Bradford Coroner's Court heard the cause of death is still being treated as unexplained. Police say a 16-year-old boy arrested on suspicion of murder has been released on conditional bail. South Yorkshire's Mayor says it is unlikely there will be any passenger flights from Doncaster Airport until 2028. Oliver Coppard said there are still challenges to overcome before any commitment can be made to reopen it, and he has to be mindful of any extra costs falling to local taxpayers. Earlier this year, the Prime Minister announced that £30 million was being released by the government to support the reopening of the airport. 2 men and 2 women from Leeds have been jailed for over 26 years following multiple burglaries. The group travelled from Leeds into North and East Yorkshire to steal from old and vulnerable people. The men would drop the women, who were posing as NHS staff, off at victims' homes and ask to use the toilet. Instead, they hunted around the houses, stealing for cash and valuables. Now, the ongoing works on the A1 at Went Bridge are continuing to frustrate both commuters and nearby residents. The traffic congestion is from improvement works such as major resurfacing and bridge repairs. To combat sitting in long waits, some HGV drivers are taking shortcuts, affecting the traffic flow for the village of Darrington.
What we're having issues with are HGVs trying to save a few minutes by coming off the A1, round this island, back on again. And, of course, when things are running smoothly, it's not a big issue. As soon as there's a hold up here, you have a few lorries coming round, it blocks, and then we can't get round the island at all if you're trying to drive into the village. Yeah. And all they've done is saved a few minutes by doing that.
When we asked National Highways for their thoughts, they told us surveys had uncovered a number of hidden defects, which showed the concrete ends of the bridge deck required extensive repairs. In a statement, they apologised for the delay and inconvenience the work is causing. Talking of things that are delayed, the new performance venue, Bradford Live, is gearing up for what it's billing as its opening season with a series of shows later this week. It means that after 25 years, audiences will be finally back in the building after it closed as an Odeon cinema back in 2000. For more than a decade, it faced demolition, but it was saved following a vigorous grassroots campaign. Our business correspondent Spencer Stokes has followed that story from the start, and he's been back to meet some of the founders of the fight to save the Bradford landmark.
I walk into this auditorium, my mind just blows.
A Bradford landmark back from the brink. After a 20-year campaign, Mark Nicholson's dream of seeing the old Odeon reopened as a state-of-the-art concert venue has been realised.
I'm pinching myself because 20 years ago, this was like my wildest dream.
Built as a super theatre in the 1930s and then converted into a 3-screen cinema in the 60s, the building closed in 2000. Bradford Council and various regeneration bodies were keen to see it knocked down, arguing it was beyond repair.
If it is demolished, that heart will be removed.
But Bradfordians had a different view.
Bradford lost a lot of great buildings in the 1960s and 70s. People really were right to say, no, we can't lose another important building that means a lot to us as citizens, but also means a lot to the city culturally. We came up with this event called Hug the Odeon that could have gone very badly for us, because if we'd have had, say, 20 people turn up, we'd have been finished. Because how can we say we're representing the views of Bradford if nobody comes to support it? So there was that massive risk element, but thankfully it paid off.
Slowly the mood changed, and after 2011, Bradford Council tentatively backed restoration. But it was another decade before building work began. The final cost, more than £50 million. And for Adrian Hartshorn, worth every penny. He remembers seeing the Beatles and many others play here in the early 60s.
The American stars, Count Basie and the Doctor, Tom Jones, Shirley Bassey. This is a queue where we'd queue for the Beatles tickets. And all the girls were just screaming. You couldn't hear any music whatsoever. And it was same for them all of them. They're screaming for the Rolling Stones and Tom Jones, yeah, especially.
And does it feel like the same place, the same space you were in?
It feels absolutely, like I said, I'm feeling now like a 21-year-old again. You get, yeah, just as every time I see it, yeah.
One plan was to replace the Odeon with a glass office block, but the 2008 financial crash scuppered that idea, as Mark explained 6 years ago.
The Bradford Odeon Rescue Group were quite possibly the only people that were glad that recession came along. You know, it helped enormously, and it put the brakes on the plans to pull the building down. I feel rightly proud, I think, but I also feel quite sad because the guy that started the Save the Odeon campaign, a guy called Norman Littlewood, he died a couple of years ago and he never got to see the finished result. But by and large, I just feel tremendously happy and very, very proud. Not for myself, but also for Bradford as well. You know, we did it. Bradford people wanted this, and we've got it.
A gala opening will take place on Sunday night. After a quarter of a century, Bradford Live finally ready to live up to its name. Spencer Stokes, BBC Look North, Bradford.
Absolutely remember going to see films there when it was the Odeon. I was at the University of Bradford. Great to see the building come back to life. Good luck for their opening day on Thursday. Now, when it comes to climbing mountains, there aren't many that our next guest hasn't tackled. Ben has already scaled Ben Nevis, Scafell Pike and Helvellyn, and he's just returned from climbing Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa. Ben had his leg amputated 8 years ago after suffering from a blood clot, and he now fundraises for other amputees, including children who've lost limbs. He was joined on the latest challenge by Jason Labarge and their friend Paul, and earlier today they told me why they did it.
We have a camp out in Tenerife for child amputees. So the reason we've took this challenge on this time is we want to bring 6 families out to Tenerife. Every family will have a child that's lost limb through cancer. And being adult amputees, we know how important that is. And why not do Kilimanjaro?
Well, I can think of 101 good reasons, actually, and that's with having all my faculties intact. What was that experience like for you?
Hard, rewarding, you know, it was a great experience to do it with Jason and Paul, who's not here, unfortunately. He's not well enough, he's a double amputee, so he struggled a little bit more than both of us. But yeah, we were hard, but there's, you know, if you're going to do a challenge, there's no point in it being easy, is there? You know?
Jason, did you need much persuading when he rang you up and said, how about it?
So actually, no, there was no ringing or persuading. I went to his camp and we kind of became friends before everyone else got there. And I'd seen him post some stuff about the challenge, and really all it took was I looked at him one day and he's like, you want to join the journey? And I was like, of course I do, sign me up.
I've seen some of the pictures and it's not smooth, it's not a tarmac path, there's no shortcuts.
No.
It would be difficult in full walking boots and walking gear. Did you struggle at all?
So, I guess to say that in a different direction, I don't really struggle as much as some of them. It all depends upon the type of the amputation, where you're at, how long you've had it, and I haven't had mine long, so.
He's just incredible, like, he's very new amputee, but he's got a special amputation where he can feel his muscles and tense his muscles, which makes a lot of a difference. But yeah, the challenge, it's not flat paths and easy work, do you know what I mean? It's up and down, isn't it, all the way.
When you took the difference between the 3 of us, because the ability levels are so different, everything averaged out and kind of pushed to where there was a winning factor.
Yeah.
I know it sounds odd, but...
So you're back in one piece. Do you know how much money you've raised yet?
So I think so far at the funding link we've got about £4,000 in. There was a few businesses out in Tenerife and stuff that have sponsored us. So I think we've done about 6. The funding link's still open. We need to hit about 15 to get this camp on.
And how many children will that support?
So 6 families will come out, but it's not just the children that's affected by the limb loss. The parents come out and the siblings, because the siblings get left behind as well. You know, when they're going through the treatments and everything else, they kind of, without actually meaning to do it, they kind of get pushed to one side. So each family, maybe 4 people in each family, so there'll be 5, 6 families coming on this camp.
But Jason, what do you think of Ben's camps?
So that was one of the things that intrigued me the most with him, to understand what it takes as an adult to lose a limb. Your limb stays stationary. You don't get a lot of changes in the bone structure and the things that come with it. Anatomically, a child has to go through that for many years of growth. Understanding the difficulties mentally and physically what it takes to be an amputee, you automatically become more intrigued and want to help a kid. It's just how it works. Either you have the heart or you don't.
Yeah, and then like I say, he flew over from America to come on my camp, which is crazy. And as soon as I picked him up, we just hit it off. We just got the both kind of mentality. But like I say, the adults camps, they're about pushing yourself and doing stuff that you wouldn't normally do. The children's ones are more relaxing, about having fun.
I'm full of awe for what you've achieved. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does Everest beckon?
So I've spent a lot of my friends know when as soon as I get off a mountain or as soon as I've done one challenge, I've got a bit of ADHD, so my head starts going. I've already got a couple of challenges planned for next year. Maybe I've already done the north to the south of Tenerife. I might do the east to the west and go up over Tejeda, which is the highest point in Spain, and obviously Jason will be getting a phone call, as will a few more of my amputee friends.
A great pleasure to meet both of you, whatever the future holds. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great work. Finally tonight, formed in Leeds in 1985, the influential indie band The Wedding Present has legions of loyal fans who have grown up with the band, and they just keep going. Their latest venture is a musical using 25 of their hundreds of songs to tell the stories of a group of Leeds university friends in the 1980s. It's called Reception, and it's on the show now at Warehouse in Holbeck. Kathy Killick has been to raise a glass of bubbly to the happy couple.
1980s Leeds lives again in this brand new musical following a group of uni friends in their first 5 years after graduation.
There's lots going on. I think that what I've really kind of enjoyed about it is this kind of investigating how relationships and friendships work over time. And these friends in particular, they go through a lot in the 5 years that we kind of are with them in the story. And I think that the songs that we've used have helped to kind of enhance that.
It's been in my head, but I've never said.
Those songs have been written over the last 40 years by David Gedge, frontman of The Wedding Present and a former Leeds student himself. The show has brought him back to Leeds where it all started, and although he was a little wary of lending his songs to a musical, he's been blown away by the finished show.
I think it's absolutely amazing, to be honest. I'm actually, I'm taken aback by how impressive it is, really. I get people afterwards saying, oh, well done, David. I'm just like, oh, yeah, it was easy, I've not done anything, really. I've written these songs years ago, but I'm happy to take the credit, obviously, if some people are going to congratulate me.
The young cast not only act, sing and dance, they also play all the music live, giving the audience the essence of a Wedding Present indie gig.
And one of the really coolest part was that David Gedge came in on day one, and I was able to go, listen, how do you play these? And how do you play these so fast and furiously? And he went, oh, you just do this. And so it's been a real process to try and live up to that energy. And then when you manage it and you're on stage, you're like, oh, this is class, this.
The music is electrifying. I think because of the space and when we play it live, it feels like we're in a gig. So you still get that adrenaline, you still get the excitement as you would if you're in a gig. But the music's great. And I think because we're actor musos and we get to play it as well at the same time and then navigate the story as well, it's super exciting, super great.
It's really nice to see how people respond, like what they find funny, what they really relate to on like an emotional level. Yeah, I think it's been really well received, and that's really encouraging for us because it means every night we're going into it with more confidence, and yeah, it's fab.
The venue is set up like a wedding reception, a clue perhaps to a happy ending or not. The show's on for the next 10 days if you want to find out. Kathy Gillett, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Thank you very much indeed, Kathy. That looks great. Unfortunately, the reservoir's not looking so great at the minute.
That's right.
They?
Latest figures out, 35.8%, which is a drop of 3.3%.
Down quite a bit even from a week ago.
Yeah, 3.3% down. Record low for late August. Let me show you this picture. This is the reservoir, one of the reservoirs from the Washburn Valley that feeds Leeds. Two sources of water for Leeds, a pipeline north of York from the River Ouse, and these reservoirs. As you can see, that will become an iconic image, I think.
If it wasn't for the sign, you wouldn't even know it was a reservoir,
Absolutely not, though. So that's Fewston. Going back to the top story we had today, that was the view late this afternoon from Whitby Harbour. You can see the smoke there on the hillside. So, you know, two images there that tell us just how dry and warm it's been over the last 6 months. If you've got any pictures you want to send in on X, on Instagram and on the Weather Watcher website. The good news is, though, we are entering, probably for the first time since January, believe it or not, a prolonged spell of unsettled weather as we head into early September. Tomorrow then a bright start, make the most of it because there is some rain on the way from the southwest. And then a repeat performance on Thursday, a bright start, this feature bringing more showery outbreaks of rain and then low pressure anchored out to the west. That means there will be drier, brighter weather with some sunshine, but also showers and even a hint of some longer spells of rain. But as I said at the top of the programme, there's no sign yet of prolonged heavy rain, which we need, that's going to last a day or so. Now, there's a satellite picture. It's quite pleasant out there at the moment. Just the odd shower showing up on the radar picture. Otherwise, it's dry and bright. Overnight, just a few showers coming into the Yorkshire Dales at times, one or two further south, but most of us will be dry tonight and we'll see temperatures down to 11 Celsius, that's 52 Fahrenheit. Tomorrow's high water times then, File is 7:25, Whitby there, 4 minutes past 7 in the morning. So it's off to a fine start. Make the most of it. Lots of sunshine. It will cloud over. Rough timings. The rain onto the Pennines around midday, spreading eastwards through the afternoon. The odd heavier burst, even the odd crack of thunder, lasting about 3 hours, something like that. Behind it, it brightens up nicely towards the end of the afternoon. A fine evening to come. Temperatures around 21 or 22 degrees. An outlook we've not seen for many, many months. Showers, even some longer spells of rain, and it turns cooler into September, as you might expect. That's
3 cheers for that outlook. Everyone now is going to be rushing to put buckets out in their garden and collect whatever they can. It's a precious resource. Might sell it on eBay later on. Thank you very much for your company. That does it for Tuesday. Abby Jola's here with your complimentary turn-down service at 10:30. Join her then. From your Tuesday night team, bye-bye.